Hello, everybody, and welcome to Hash Rate. My name is Mark Jeffrey. My guest today is Ben Sigman of Bitcoin Libre. I love saying Bitcoin Libre. But first, a shout out to MEXC. Get up to $4,100 when you sign up using my link in the YouTube show notes. So go do that today. I love it. I use MEXC. I love it a lot. So hello, Ben. Welcome to the show. How you doing?
Mark, yeah, thanks for having me. How are things going?
Pretty good. I thought I'd see you maybe at a LA blockchain summit this past week, but I did not run into you. Did you end up going at all, or?
No, I went to like some meetings and dinners around it because people are in town, but yeah, no showroom floor, no events, speaking events. I feel like if there's something good at a conference, you can usually catch a video of it afterwards.
Yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right. I mean, I go for the networking. I mean, pretty much that's 90% of it, right? So for me, it was great to see a lot of people I haven't seen since the pandemic began, maybe 70% of them. So yeah, so super cool in that respect.
Yeah,
all right. So
it would have been great to come and hang with you. Of course, I loved your photos for the event. Yeah.
Well, we will catch up soon in person, I am sure. So let's go move on to Bitcoin Libre.
Yeah.
No one's going to forget it now. By the way, I'm helping you with branding when I say it that way.
That's good.
So what is Bitcoin Libre?
Very simple. Bitcoin Libre is the easiest to use wallet for Bitcoin and Tether.
Okay.
So we're focused on Bitcoin and Tether, and the app began because I went to El Salvador in June of last year.
Yep.
As part of a group of people going down to, discuss cryptocurrency and Bitcoin with the government officials, the central bank, all of the people in El Salvador, all the president's men and women.
Yep.
And so I gave a presentation to the government on scaling solutions for Bitcoin. Essentially, Bitcoin has some issues for the average person to be able to use it. Complicated hashes and most custodial systems work great.
Right.
If you trust someone with your Bitcoin, they actually work really nicely because you're sending Bitcoin on a database, and it's fast. There's no high fees, and so Bitcoin transactions take 10 minutes to 60 minutes, depending on the wallet you're using, or longer, even longer. It could take days.
Okay, so let me restate some of that because I want to make sure everybody's sort of the kids in the back are following along at home. So first of all, you went to El Salvador. That's sort of what kicked all of this off. El Salvador very famously made Bitcoin national currency. So their dollar is now Bitcoin is their dollar, right? So there's a huge opportunity for people who provide Bitcoin infrastructure in some way. So you went down there, and that's what sort of kicked this all off. And if you use Bitcoin as your national currency, there's sort of a problem there because Bitcoin blocks take 10 minutes to process. So if you're trying to pay for gas, you're trying to buy your gas at the gas station, you're not going to wait around for 10 minutes for your Bitcoin to clear, right? It's got to go through right away. So there has to be some sort of solution layered on top of Bitcoin. So your wallet is an attempt to build that with very instant transactions. Both for Bitcoin and I guess for Tether also?
Right. So, 100%. You're 100% accurate. At the time, Bitcoin Libre was just an idea. And when I presented to them different scaling solutions, different ways to make Bitcoin transactions faster and easier to use that exists now, we kind of have Lightning, custodial Bitcoin, or pegged Bitcoin or wrapped Bitcoin. It could be, it's kind of, you can use the same term, which is a coin on another chain that is backed by Bitcoin, right? And there's different degrees of those that exist. But that's essentially what I was trying to convince them was a better solution than doing a custody solution. They ended up going with a custody solution. So
the custody solution, so another way to solve it is instead of building what you've built, the other way to do it is to say we're a centralized exchange effectively, and we got a big database of who has how much Bitcoin. And instead of actually moving the Bitcoin itself around on the Bitcoin network, I just scratch out one Bitcoin from your column and put it in my column when you send me 1 Bitcoin. So there is no real transaction. So therefore, it can take place immediately, right? So that's
Exactly.
the difference. Yeah.
And the advantage of the pegged Bitcoin is just that there's no middleman.
Right. So let me tell you what I remember when I first heard about this idea. Immediately, and I knew you were up to something that was more sophisticated than what I was thinking, but my brain went here first. You know that I play around quite a bit in DeFi and with all the the EVM chains, as well as things like Near and Solana and blah blah blah, and especially with Phantom and Binance Smart Chain and Solana, the transactions are instant. I mean, they pretty much happen subsecond most of the time, and they're very, very cheap. And on all of those chains, we have wrapped Bitcoin, right? Yeah. And we have Tether. So when you say I've built a wallet that provides subsecond transactions for Bitcoin and Tether, my brain goes, well, so what? Because I've already got that on these EVM chains, and it's already a lot bigger. And wrapped Bitcoin accounts for 1% of all Bitcoin, apparently, right? So a success. It's so far a success. So why? So what have you done that's different, and why does the consumer care?
So we approached the concept of Bitcoin Libre from a user focused perspective, because I'm a product guy, and so I like to think about keeping the user at the center of all of my decision making. And the user experience that I really believed was the right one is essentially the way that Venmo and Cash App work. You can easily send to anyone anywhere in the world instantly without fees. Now, of course, Venmo and Cash App is not anywhere in the world. It only works in the United States. And and there's many Bitcoin apps that don't even work in all states, like Strike, for example. So this idea of having a consumer-friendly app that works anywhere in the world was the big motivating factor. Now, we talked to business development teams from every blockchain possible, like, from Solana and Polygon, and we talked to Lightning Labs, and I ended up becoming pretty close with them over the past year. And no one could create this experience where someone can set up an account in seconds and be up and running with Bitcoin and Tether in their wallet, be able to send and receive it instantly. Because a lot of every blockchain requires users to have the network token. So it ends up becoming a very big hurdle, because how do you get onto, if we built Bitcoin Libre on Polygon and someone sent you some Bitcoin, how would you then send it to someone else?
Because you need Polygon as the gas, but you don't have Polygon because you just signed up. So you have a wallet, but congratulations, it's born bricked.
Born bricked. So it's basically, and then the process of getting these other tokens is not easy. Even on Telos recently, which is another blockchain, it's a fork of EOS.io.
Yeah.
Telos recently, I got some pegged Bitcoin on Telos that someone sent me. And I couldn't move it because I need to get Telos tokens, but I couldn't find anywhere to trade the pegged Bitcoin for Telos, to buy Telos tokens.
Right.
So someone else had to send me Telos then, so I could
to unbrick you,
or stake for me to unbrick me, so I could send it to someone else. Like that experience is not going to work for anyone.
Yeah.
And so I guess we think of things as, I'm a usability maximalist, right?
Yep.
I'm a usability maximalist, and I consider myself a Bitcoin optimist. I'm very optimistic about Bitcoin and crypto, and stable coins. I think you also definitely need to have stablecoin, because people do not want to transact in Bitcoin.
Okay, so let me restate what you just said, because I think I can explain it now. Yeah. So what I said was true. All these other chains do let you have wrapped Bitcoin and Tether, and they do provide sub-second transaction speeds. However, they come with a raft of other problems. First of all, you have to use MetaMask, right? So just from there, that alone, I mean, you don't have to, but the primary user experience most of the time is MetaMask, which is a really shitty end user experience, definitely not a consumer level experience. So, and also the secondary problem is that all of those chains require you to somehow magically acquire their gas token in order to have your wallet not be bricked and actually be able to operate inside that universe. So what you wanted to do was provide a Cash App, Venmo, like onboarding experience where you could get into this universe immediately without having to have a gas token. And the sign up process would be super, super simple, and you're up and running within seconds. And that doesn't exist right now for Bitcoin or Tether, and until you.
100%.
Got it? Okay.
100%.
All right. So now I understand why this makes sense versus an EVM or some of these other chains. Now, my understanding is that you're doing something with Lightning, that there is, or the P network, and I'm not quite sure. So first of all, what chain are you guys on? What is the relationship with the P chain and Lightning, if any? And just sort of walk me through that.
So the chain that we're using is called Libre chain. And
So it's your own.
Yes, it was built by us and some other entities, some other groups and individual developers from around the world who have similar interests that we do into seeing Bitcoin and Tether being super easy to use and build on, right?
Yep.
So the Libre chain is where we're running on now, and it's a new blockchain just designed specifically for this purpose of building apps that use Bitcoin and Tether.
What are sort of the internal guts of it? Is it based on EVM or EOS or something like that?
It's based on Antelope IO, which is the evolution of EOS.
Yep, that makes sense.
So it's got new features and better functionality, simpler stuff, a lot of simplification. It's an original code base, open source that validators run on their computers, and they earn Libre for validating the network. And that's where all of the transactional activity happens. All the smart contracts and accounts and transfer functionality all happen on Libre chain.
Got it. Okay. Is there when I download the Libre wallet, how do I buy my first Bitcoin? Right? How do I start the ball rolling? Like, how does that all work?
Well, the way we built Bitcoin Libre was this very simple idea of giving away free Bitcoin from a wheel. So we basically put our own Bitcoin into an account where you can spin a wheel every day and win a little tiny bit of Bitcoin, sats, right? And sats are the smallest amount of Bitcoin. It's 1/100 millionth of a Bitcoin.
Like Bitcoin pennies, basically.
It's like Bitcoin pennies, just a dollar's only 100 pennies, and a Bitcoin's 100 million sats. So it's
a lot more pennies.
Yeah, it's a lot more pennies. Yeah, it's way less than a penny, the value of a sat.
Yes.
Because Bitcoin has a finite amount of 21 million, but it's divisible, not infinitely, but infinitesimally. It's very
so a sat is worth like 1/1000th of a penny or something like that right now. I don't know the exact number, but something like that.
Exactly.
So anyway, so I come into your system, I spin a wheel, and do I always win something every day, or could I win nothing?
Every 24 hours, and that's
cool.
limited. It's cool. It's a limited time thing. We're not going to do this forever, but it's a way to kickstart things because in building an app, we need to go from 0 to 1.
Yeah.
And that 0 to 1 movement really, giveaways and tokens can really help with that, solving that problem.
Totally agree. I mean, who doesn't love a giveaway? That's just everybody loves to get free money, especially. So, okay, so I download it, I get free money, and then do you have usernames? Like, because I know the EOS IO system had usernames baked into it last time I checked in on it. So do I get to define my own username, and then can I send it to at Ben Sigman instead of OX blah 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 blah? Tell me about that.
Yeah, you can sign up with OX bar 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 if you want, or you can sign up with Ben Sigman or Mark Jeffrey. You could sign up as Jimmy, But yes, we do use human-readable names in all of the applications on Libre, and that was definitely a functionality that we really desired. One of the things about Lightning is that there's no permanent addresses. If you run a store, you can't really just print a QR code and put it on your wall. That's always going to be the same to receive Bitcoin through Lightning, because of the way Lightning works with invoices, and it's still very complicated. Now, maybe in a year or two, once we get Volt 12, it'll be easier. There's something called LNURL now, but these things are not widely adopted. They're not universal. there is adoption, but it's not universal, is what I would say. So
Yes.
basically, so you get some Bitcoin on the wheel. Going back to the app, spin the wheel, you get some Bitcoin. Now you can send it to anyone else. So the thing about the wheel we did was we also added in referrals to the wheel. So when you sign up for Libre, you get a referral link. It's just app.libre.org with your username. You share that to your friend, your cousin, your followers on your podcast, and when they sign up for Libre and spin the wheel, you'll earn on top of what they earn. So if they earn 100 sats, you'll get 50.
Ah, very nice. And now, how many layers deep does that go? Can I create an empire of like 500 million if I'm at the apex of the pyramid? Like, how does that work?
It goes pretty deep. It will support at least 10 layers of that. So
Okay.
when they refer people and they refer people and they refer people. So I'll show you what it looks like in my app now.
Yep.
I refer people every day because it's fun. In my app, I have a huge list of people I've referred. And when they spin the wheel, it's paying me. And then when they refer people, I also earn from them. So that's essentially how we've gotten to 380,000 plus accounts. You know?
Yeah, we haven't talked about how big you are yet. So 300, and I was going to get to that, 380,000 plus accounts. So that's huge. So that's, I mean, how long is that taking you to get to 380,000 accounts?
We've been live for just over a year.
Wow. And this is worldwide, or is it, is it mostly El Salvador? Like, what sort of the distribution look like?
Yeah, good question. Well, one thing about Bitcoin Libre is we don't really collect any metrics from the users. We don't collect email addresses or phone numbers at all.
Oh, okay.
And so we can tell from IP addresses and App Store downloads where the downloads are coming from and at least what IPs are accessing our APIs that we run. Now, every other validator runs APIs, but what I can tell you is that the top countries are El Salvador, Argentina, and Ukraine right now.
Wow. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
And
yeah, go ahead.
What I was going to say about it is that it's almost hard to imagine a world without banks and credit cards living in the United States. I think I was talking to some investors last week at an event who invest in a fund that's invested in Lightning Labs, and one of the guys was like, "I'm still not understanding, why can't we just do this with Visa or American Express?" And the answer is just that, well, not everyone in the world has bank accounts. I mean, credit card coverage alone in the world is less than 20% of the entire world has a credit card.
Yeah.
So in these places where you don't have credit cards, don't have bank accounts, really you're working with cash. People are putting cash under their mattresses, or they have little local kind of banks where they'll have like a collective where they share money, save money together. But these things are ripe, full of corruption. It's very hard to trust other people, and Bitcoin is really about trustlessness, right? Don't trust, verify.
Yeah, India's kind of like that. So I've seen that first. I've been to India several times, so I've seen that cash-based society up close. So yeah. So I've heard people that work with you talk about the P network and also Lightning. So you have your own chain and it's based on ESIO. How does the P network and the Lightning network interface to you, or do they or don't they? Tell me what does that look like?
Yeah. So on the Libre chain, really anyone can come and build tokens and smart contracts and even issue their own assets. Like people could come and issue a wrapped Bitcoin. WBTC could issue on our chain, on Libre. But when we were in testnet, we were looking into different ways to handle the Bitcoin. We were looking into implementing a decentralized Bitcoin wrapping that we could build ourselves that would work with the validators of our chain, having some bonded Bitcoin in there to generate and redeem Bitcoin on Bitcoin mainnet, right? Because there has to be a bridge for Bitcoin to get on and off.
Right. Yeah.
And
I was going to ask you how I send my Bitcoin into the Libre network.
Yeah.
And is that basically wrapped Bitcoin? And if not, what's different?
It is. It's a wrap Bitcoin, but in Bitcoin Libre, you just click receive and you get a Bitcoin address in the application here.
Got it.
And that comes from P Network now. So when we were in testnet, we had a couple different proposals to do Bitcoin on the network. We didn't want to be responsible for people's Bitcoin. You know, what we didn't want was Ben Sigman has a key to your Bitcoin, and he'll issue you Bitcoin on Libre. That is not good. You know that.
No, because you might be Alex Mashinsky. So that's.
You know? And you know, I mean, if it got to $100 million worth of Bitcoin, Ben Sigman might disappear. You know, I mean, I'm not going to, but with that, we don't want to even have that as a possibility of something that could happen. And so, so we got a bunch of different proposals from people that are very interested in doing Bitcoin wrapping. And the P Network was the most interesting one because they're already live on something like 15 other blockchains, including Algorand and Polygon and Ethereum and Telos and EOS, and it's a huge list of where you can use PBTC, and it's also integrated into Bitfinex. And they also had the potential, they had the capability of creating the USDT. So, of course, we gave them access to the testnet. They built their bridges and everything into there, and that stuff's already been running for years on all these other chains, and it felt very safe to us. Now, in the theme of Don't Trust, Verify, we do have a page where we built our own verification of their holdings of Bitcoin. And so we check and verify publicly and give you the opportunity to do it as well to see, is the amount of PBTC on Libre 100% backed, at least 100% backed by Bitcoin, held in Bitcoin wallets? Which wallets are those? And, you know, what are the amounts of them?
Yeah, so it's like Tether, but you can, instead, like Tether, we can't see, like, how many dollars they have in their bank account, right? Because it's a bank account, it's not a chain. This is Bitcoin, so it's in an address somewhere. So, and your validator knows where the address is. So you can see that it's still there and that some bad behaving person or entity hasn't gone and staked it on Aave to get yield. And, you know, and put it in danger like so many other things that we won't mention have done. So, yes. Exactly. So that's great. Love that.
Yeah,
okay.
You know, Kraken is an exchange. Kraken is the only exchange I'm aware of that offers anything like that for Bitcoin. Coinbase, you know, Binance, all these other exchanges are basically banks that hold your crypto and your Bitcoin, and there's no way to verify that 100% of what they claim everyone has is actually held by them. My guess is they're probably fractional reserve systems.
I would think that you're probably correct. So I agree with you on
How
that.
fractional, we don't know, but.
So okay, so now I put some Bitcoin onto into my Libre wallet on the Libre network. Is there an AMM somewhere that I can use to translate that into dollars, into Tether?
So, great question. There is an AMM, and it was built by a team in Argentina, actually. That's already running on a bunch of different chains, and we just implemented this front end for it here. It's very simple, where you can come in and if you want 100 sats from the wheel, you can swap that for 2 cents.
Dollars. Yep.
Yeah. You swap it for dollars at the fee of 1 sat, and it happens super fast. And then you can see the transaction here. You can click it and view it on the Block Explorer, which anyone can view and verify online to see that transaction executed. Boom. So
super
I mean,
cool.
The speed of trading and the cost of the trades is just amazing on this AMM, and anyone can provide liquidity on the AMM.
Oh, okay. So I can play the liquidity game there. So and you're looking. So I bet you. So you're looking for Bitcoin versus Tether. That's the only pair, I guess, right? Like that's it.
We're talking about Bitcoin and Tether are the two most popular assets for trading in the world in crypto.
Yep.
We're $20 billion a day in volume. So as a liquidity provider on Libre, if Libre even captures 1% of that trading volume over the next few years, it's significant earnings for anyone who provides liquidity.
Fees could be pretty big. Yeah.
The fees can add up, and so the fee on the AMM now is only 10 basis points, 0.1%. But that fee can be voted on by the liquidity providers. So it's totally
really?
not in our control at all. It's just whoever provides liquidity will be able to change the fee.
And my vote is pro rata how much liquidity I have provided, basically? That it doubles as my governance token, if you will? Is that correct?
So the liquidity pool, each liquidity pool has its own governance coin. The only liquidity pool currently is Bitcoin to Tether. But the point of an AMM is that instead of a bank or exchange or the stock exchange making money off the trades, anyone can provide liquidity and make money off people trading. That's been I think one of the biggest things that's not the core of DeFi. It's just the idea that I can provide liquidity, other people can then trade. I could put bananas and dollars on the street, and people can take a banana or add a banana and take a dollar. Take a Bitcoin, add a Tether. Take a Tether, add a Bitcoin. And
totally agree.
Taken off each transaction that I'm earning in that pool, and when I claim my LP tokens or withdraw them, cash them in, I'll get my share of the pool plus the fees, which is awesome.
Which is super cool. So in your AMM, is impermanent loss? I assume it has impermanent loss like every other AMM. Is that correct?
Yeah, impermanent loss just the concept that you could end up with more of another token. So if you have to put in equal amounts. So let's say you put in $20,000 of Tether and one Bitcoin, right? Or 21,000 at today's price. Now, if the Bitcoin price goes up, the amount of Bitcoin in the pool goes down, and the amount of Tether in the pool goes up. And the price is the relative value of those two. So if you withdraw your tokens when the Bitcoin price goes up, you'll end up with more Tether and less Bitcoin, which I would say is advantageous in a way.
Yeah, I agree. It can help you as much as hurt you. So it's the hand that gives and the hand that takes at the same time.
Exactly, yes.
Yep. Okay, so is the Libre... So is there a coin for Libre for your blockchain?
Yeah, there is. And, it's interesting because when we first started, we thought it would be better if we didn't have any coin, really. It'd be best if we could build somehow on Lightning where there's no network coin at all, but to get validators and to incentivize validators and to give the network governance, it needs a governance coin, right? Yeah. We looked into a lot of different options, like just doing bonded Bitcoin was one of the ideas, but there's a lot of problems with that too. And so the other thing is that resources on the chain need to be managed, and just even though we don't require network resources for users to have a network token, everyone gets an allocated amount of resources to use. Some people or developers might need extra resources, and that's where the token will come in as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it costs money. I mean, basically validating, making this chain run, people have to have machines with memory and bandwidth and all that stuff. All that stuff costs money. So somehow you have to reward those people for providing those resources and services to make the stuff go. So interesting. So that's interesting. You actually went through you actually tried not to have a token, and you found that actually there's no other good way to do it. You have to have a token. So here we are.
There's nothing that we've been able to come up with, and I've talked to some of my most hardcore old school Bitcoin dev friends about it. And as much as they hate a shitcoin or anything besides Bitcoin existing, they kind of agreed this was the only way. They're not in love with it still, but I think it presents an interesting opportunity. And the way we decided to go about this coin is really different from everything else. So I'll explain why that is. First, a little history is that, since Bitcoin began, people have been forking Bitcoin and making their own versions of Bitcoin. Ethereum was the first big thing to come along that was very different, but there was like Namecoin and Purecoin and all those things back in 2012,
oh, yes.
2015, that were really just forks of Bitcoin. You change a little bit of the code and try to do something different with it. Almost all of the coins that have come out besides Bitcoin, including Ethereum, have had a huge allocation of tokens given to the founders. Why is that? Because they're the people who did all the work, they did all the research, they did all the building, so they feel entitled to owning a large percentage of the tokens and therefore controlling a massive amount of the supply, controlling the governance, and
famously, if you're Solana, A16Z invested in you, and they feel like they should have a lot of tokens because they gave you the money to make the Solana network.
And they do, and they have like 80% of them or something crazy, And it's the same even on a bunch of like Compound is like 80% of the tokens are owned by Compound organization, and so I have seen this now happen for so many years, and what you kind of see is that like everyone feels like they're getting into something late, because someone already owns so much of it that they're just essentially you're becoming exit liquidity for someone else's investment.
You're going to get dumped on.
Yeah, and these things happen in small rooms where there's very few people who can access them. It seems to me like it's completely unfair to people who believe in something early when they didn't even know it existed at some point, and they had no opportunity, even if they knew it was coming, to get involved in those early rounds. And I'm just tired of those situations.
Yep.
I think that the industry is tired of those situations.
On behalf of the industry, we totally are.
Yeah.
So yes. So what are you doing? So how do I? So basically, this is probably similar to what Andre did for Why You're in Finance, the fair launch. You probably got some spin on that, is my guess. Go ahead.
Exactly. Yeah. So I was inspired by Andre Cronje's Urine YFI token, where he did a distribution to the early adopters. And that was fascinating. I also think that the idea of distributing the initial supply of tokens is complicated, and I did some research on what was happening in the concept of fair launch, and there was a great blog article I could send you that I can't remember the guy's names right now, but that I read last year, way before we thought of even doing Libre, maybe even 2 years ago. And I thought, wow, this is really fascinating. And what they basically said was the fairness of a token distribution event is dependent on two factors. One factor is the duration of the availability of the token to the public or initial investors and or contributors, we can call them. And the other part was the average price and the difference in price from the beginning to the end of the distribution, right? So in some ways, these guys were arguing that the EOS launch was one of the most fair token distributions ever because people had a year to buy in, and every day the price reset, so you could have an everyday auction on the price.
Yeah, but at 11:59, everyone piled in last minute, and boom, up went the price. Yeah, I remember those. I remember those auctions.
That just happened every day. And the thing with EOS is that for the first few months, no one cared until real money started coming in daily. When millions of dollars started coming in daily, then people started caring and FOMOing into it. And of course, what happened with EOS is a real tragedy. I mean, with Block One, essentially absconding with all the money.
We agree.
Not following.
But
their
you can't deny they made an engine that raised a shit ton of money. So
they did, and what the unfair part of that is that the money went into their coffers.
Agreed.
That should never have happened. So
agree again.
So I was looking at all these different things that happened. I was kind of talking about it for a while with anyone who wanted to do a token. I was arguing like, hey, you should really think about this fair launch concept that I developed. Now, fair launch, it kind of was a hot thing that was happening in 2020, where a bunch of these coins on BSC claimed to be fair launch, but they really weren't.
Oh, that's BSC.
Just full of scams. But the concept, it sounded really good to me, except for the fact that the tokens coming in cannot be in the control of a DAO or control of an organization or an individual, right?
Yep.
And so with the twist that I thought of that made sense is that the initial distribution of tokens should discover a price for the token. So people can contribute to a liquidity pool is the idea. And so this is what we call on Libre, we call this the mint rush. And we've designed it in a way where it's really super fair to everyone who contributes money to this liquidity pool. And the way it works is there's 200 million Libre that's going to be allocated to the mint rush. 30 days, 200 million.
And how many Libre total is there? So 200 million is what percent?
I mean,
roughly, ish.
At the end of the mint rush, there will be 500 million, but 400 million of that will belong to the mint rush participants, and I'll explain why.
Okay.
So it really will be, 80% of the supply.
Okay.
Will be
is
sold
for the mint rush.
The other 10% belongs to the validators that have been validating the chain since July when it launched. So that's what they've earned to date. But there's another bonus to the mint rush, which is you get a massive staking reward. So the mint rush is really a way to loan Bitcoin to the liquidity pool of Libre to Bitcoin. And you're essentially signing up to loan it for 1 year. In exchange for that loan, you're going to receive Libre. And everyone's going to get it at the same price.
Okay. So this is not happening yet. You haven't begun the mint rush yet, right?
No.
So when is it happening?
It starts on November 15th.
Okay, so November 15th. So it's coming in like a week and a half-ish. So from when we're recording this anyway.
Yeah.
So, and at that time, the mint rush will begin. I have to load some Bitcoin into my Libre wallet to prepare for the mint rush. And then when mint rush opens, how do I supply my Bitcoin as liquidity? I don't have any Libre yet, so I can't supply that half. I'm assuming you supply that half. So I just supply my Bitcoin. Where do I go to do that?
Yeah, you'll be able to do it at dashboard.libre.org/mint.
Okay.
There's a web application that will allow you to do it. Now, you can also do it on a command line or using another wallet, any wallet on Libre, by using the right memo format, and that'll all be covered in the docs on the Git book that you can find at libre.org.
Got it. Okay. And then you're saying I have to lock it up for a period of time in order to get the biggest reward of Libre tokens?
You're gonna need to lock up for a year, but you get a little bit back every day.
Okay. So it's basically locked, and then you locked and leaked. So you lock it up, and then it leaks back to you a little bit every day.
Exactly, and that's all done through a smart contract.
Okay.
Cool. Let me just explain the mechanics of the mint rush, because this is what I'm really excited about, is how the mint rush functions. So there's 200 million Libre, like I said. You have 30 days.
Yep.
Now, let's just say that 50 Bitcoin comes in over those 30 days total, right? And the Bitcoin's going to come from wherever people decide to be. You might contribute Bitcoin. I might contribute Bitcoin. My friends and family might. Random people on the internet who found it are going to contribute. Maybe some people watching this are going to contribute a little bit of Bitcoin, but let's just say I contribute 1 Bitcoin, so I have 1/50th of the pool. So now, at the end of the mint rush, that 200 million gets distributed to everyone based on how much Bitcoin comes in and how much their share of the pie is.
Got it.
Right? So
my percentage share.
Yeah, if I contributed 1/50th of the Bitcoin that's come in, then I would get 1/50th of the 200 million, which is 4 million.
Okay.
Now, I'll have 4 million that's staked for however long I choose to stake it for. And that 4 million Libre is going to be staked for whatever duration I choose. The minimum is 30 and the max is like a year. Depending on how long I stake for, I will receive higher rewards for longer.
Okay, so it might be bigger than 1/50th because you staked for a year.
It depends
right?
on the relative stakes of everyone else, and so it's a
Got it.
Kind
So
of
the
like-
more you do for the network, the more you get.
Yeah, the more you commit, the longer you commit to staking and providing liquidity, then that will determine, you know, how much you get after that time period. So yes, the maximum APY you can get if you buy into the mint rush on day 0 and stake for a year is 400%. So if it was 150 and I got 4 million tokens, then that 4 million would be essentially 16 million, really 20 million after a year.
Yeah, so if you supply 100% of the liquidity, you will make 400%. Is that correct?
If you stake for a year and you buy in on day 0, you make 400%. If you stake for a year and buy in on day 15, which is halfway, now you're only going to make 200%.
Got it. Okay. Well, this all sounds super cool. I do have a Libre wallet, but I'm now going to bust that back out again and get my referral code up and running on Twitter. Well, I still have a blue check that matters. Who knows where this is going to go in a couple of weeks?
Right. Are you going to pay the $8?
What's that? Am I going to pay the? Of course, I'm going to pay the $8. Yeah, of course. That's a no-brainer. So, I mean, $8 is nothing. I'm pretty happy that free speech is back. I mean, not everyone agrees with me on that, obviously, but I'm cool with that, and I'm cool with the $8. So there it is.
I love Twitter right now. I mean, it's the most fascinating public surgery of a company that's ever existed that's happening now.
It is.
Well, one thing I want to add about the referral code on your Twitter is that if people sign up for the Mint Rush, sign up for Libre, and participate in the Mint Rush, the referrals are on chain. So the Mint Rush will honor any money, any Libre that they make in the future from claiming, will pay you 10% forever.
So I'm making money on my referees mint rushing as well.
Yeah.
So, very nice. Okay.
That's only one level deep.
Yep.
But still, it works out pretty nicely because if you refer someone and they put in $10,000 on day 0, assuming that the token price and everything stays the same over a year, you could make as much as $3,000.
Wow. Okay. Well, so everyone who's watching this, don't use Ben's code, use mine. Mine will be in the YouTube show notes. I refuse to include Ben's. It'll just be mine. So, because I want to get all the referrals and build my little empire. Yes. So, okay. Well, we're at the 40-minute mark, which is where I like to sort of end these things. Is there anything I should have asked that I didn't that you'd like to talk about, or did we cover it?
I think the only thing we didn't cover was just the Lightning Network.
Yes.
And so the way the Lightning Network integrates is that we have a concept of Lightning service providers that can attach themselves to the chain and run some software to accept pegged Bitcoin and send out Lightning payments for them. And so we have a couple of those running, and there's information in the docs about how to set that up. So if you run your own Lightning node, you can come in and provide liquidity, and that's a way to get Bitcoin in and out super fast. I mean, it takes 30 seconds. P-Network takes about 10 minutes, but yeah, there's all stuff that we don't really have a middleman hand in at all, and that's the way we wanted it to be.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. And the apps themselves are available for both iPhone and Android?
Yep, that's right.
Okay. And just look for the Bitcoin Libre wallet. And then where can people find you online? Where's your website and Twitter handles?
The wallet I wanted to add is that you can also use a Ledger wallet using Anchor. So Anchor is another open source multi-chain wallet that works with Ledger. So if you don't feel comfortable using a mobile app, you can still use a Ledger account. You can set up an account through Ledger, and that information is all in the docs with tutorials and stuff.
Okay, where's your website and what are your Twitter handles?
Website is www.libre.org, libre.org, and the Twitter is Libre Blockchain.
Fantastic. Well, Ben, thank you so much for coming on the show. As always, it's
been so fun.
It has been a pleasure, and I'm glad we were able to cover this, and hopefully we've explained it well for all the people in the world out there who could benefit greatly from this thing. Bitcoin Libre! One last one in before we go. All right, Ben, this has been Hash Rate. My name is Mark Jeffrey. We will see you next time.